Hi everyone, this is Hannah from Wonderful Woodlands, and today we're going to look at how to sew on a bobble. So I have two hats here that I want to show you real quick before we actually get to sewing on the bobble. The first thing you want to do is you want to place your bobbles, and I went ahead and did this before the video because it can take a few tries to get right. So this hat is actually a really good example. We're going to sew the bobbles on the polar bear, but I wanted to show you the snowman because I have two eyes, I have a mouth here, and I have a nose. And I went ahead and I blocked, you can see on the inside, all, I think 6 of those pieces here. So I don't have any of my ends tied or woven in yet. So what I like to do when I'm starting, especially a face, it can really change the look and the shape of the face if something is just not quite right in the right spot. And so before you actually sew your bobbles or your fixtures onto your hat, you really want to block out everything that's going to go on your hat, like your pom-pom up at the top, a nose, a mouth, eyes, to make sure that it is all exactly where you're going to want it to end up. So we're going to look at how to get the bobbles on for the polar bear today, but I wanted to show you the pieces that are going to go with him as well. He has 2 little ears that I'm going to do later. These aren't super hard to position, so we're not going to worry about those just yet. But I do have a nose here as well, and it can help with the eye placement to look at the nose and kind of decide how and where you're going to want the nose to go to make sure that your eyes end up in the right spot. So we'll move on from that for now, and I'm going to show you how to actually get your bobbles on. But I went ahead and I placed my bobbles, and I'm pretty happy with where they ended up right here. Sometimes you don't get it on the first try. I did not get these on the first try. It took me 2 or 3 tries. So don't feel bad if it takes you a couple tries. The first thing to note is that you absolutely do not want to tie these on until you're totally happy with them, because untying them is not fun. So like with this one, when I had 6 different pieces, I didn't tie any of these on. I just placed all of them while I decided where everyone was going to go, because then you can super easy pull them off and move them if you need to. So once you've placed everything and you're happy with where it is, then we can go ahead and make our knots. So if you need to make a single knot to hold things stable for you, that's okay, but don't make your double knot until you're sure. So we'll do a single knot on both of these. And now that we're happy with the placement, we're going to go back and make both of these double knots. Now what gets really tricky with weaving our ends in here is, you can see this is our Sheri color of yarn, this dark blue that we used for our eyes. And we have Ivory for our background. Sheri does not weave in on Ivory. I have tried, it does not work. It shows through because it's so dark against the bright white. But I do still like to weave an end in. I think if we probably trim these down, I think they would probably be okay, but I guess I'm a little bit of a traditionalist and I like to weave my ends in at least a little bit just because it makes me feel better. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna follow our rule of 3s today, but it's not gonna be 3 stitches up, down, up like we usually do. Instead, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go through the eyes 3 times. So we're gonna take this first piece of yarn here, and we're just gonna come straight up through the eye like this, and we're just gonna make 3 stitches through the eye to kind of ground this yarn here so that it doesn't pull out on us. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and trim our yarn. And so this is a little trick you can use when you're doing a dark color on a light color, which sometimes happens with faces. Is you can weave your ends in on the darker color, and on a bobble that's a lot harder to do on, ooh, this is a little bit tight here. Just give it a good pull if this gets stuck for you. On the snowman, I want to show you this again. The snowman was really easy because we weave our aquamarines in and not in the aqua. We weave our ivory ends in on ivory, and we weave our apple green ends in on the apple. But on the polar bear, because all we have is Sheri, we just didn't really have a lot to work with here. Something is not going right. Let's try this again. We're gonna go through right here. There we go, perfect. And then we'll do 1, actually we're gonna go 4 times. We're gonna have to go up, down, because if we go up, we're gonna end on the outside. So we'll go up, down, up, down. 1 more time here. And then these, there's really no right or wrong spot to weave these in. Because it's a bobble, it's an eye, it's pretty round, and so it's not really gonna create a lot of texture. It's not gonna look weird if you get it in the wrong spot, and then kind of pop the eye out and make sure it looks all nice and cute when you're done. So I'm gonna do the rest of my 3 ends here in a minute, but that is how you weave in ends on a bobble. Up, down, and then we'll take that end, and that one's coming off so this is the one I just wove in. We'll take this end here. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna show you one more trick. Let's grab this. We're gonna go, so we're gonna feel for a stitch. Do you see how this stitch is coming up? You can see the bobble behind it. So if I go up through this stitch, you're not gonna see it from the front because the bobble is sitting there from the front. So I'm just gonna tuck this under the stitch here. Just one stitch we'll thread, and then we'll trim a little end, and we're gonna call that good. So that is weaving in ends on a bobble when your bobbles are very, very, very different color than the base of your hat.